I'm Margaret Kubelitz, the chair of the TPO, Hillsborough TPO ITS committee. Welcome. Glad to see all these smiling faces in the room. There's not a lot today. Most people are remote. So let me call it to order. Meeting comes to order. And then shall we do introductions or go straight to roll call?
We're not going to do roll calls anymore.
Okay.
We're just going to do introductions here, and I'll note on the sign-up sheet who's. Oh,
Yeah,
you do
I
it.
could do it, yeah.
Oh, perfect. Okay.
And they can even chime in virtually after we do that in room.
Okay, that sounds good. Okay, as I said, I'm Margaret Kubelitz. I'm with the city of Tampa. I'm the Smart Mobility Manager. Right?
Brian Sayas, Hillsborough County. I am the TMC Program Manager.
Hi, I'm Michelle Jenkins. I'm with the Environmental Protection Commission of Hillsborough County, and I'm sitting in for Jeff Sims. So,
Excellent.
Gina Torres, the liaison to the ITS committee for the TPO.
And Harry Walsh from the TPO, the incoming liaison when Gina leaves us in a few months.
All right, so there'll be like 2 more meetings of this group, and he'll be a little bit more engaged next meeting, and then he'll completely take it over in February.
Perfect. That's a good
And
plan.
we can do the audience.
Yeah.
I am Arlene McGee. I'm the Community Relations Coordinator. I'll be presenting your action item in a few minutes.
Okay, sounds good.
Daniel, we've.
Hello, Daniel Agnew, the computer and network specialist for IT.
Very important role.
Thank you.
Yes. Okay, so why don't we go through online? Just to help facilitate that, how about, is it Cheryl online?
Yeah, sure, Gail is.
Gail, I'm sorry, not Cheryl. Yeah, Gail, do you want to just call people as you see them?
Would you like me to unmute them so that they can introduce themselves?
Sure, that's fine.
I might jump in.
Okay. Achilles Cortellis.
Hi, good afternoon. I'm here.
Edward Albritton.
Ed Albritton, District 7 TSMNO Project Manager.
Megan, I don't know if I've ever gotten your last name correct.
No problem. Megan Nora State, TSMNO Program Engineer for Department of Transportation.
And we have Bridget Gazzara.
Hi, yes, I'm Bridget Gazzara. I'm the Strategic Campaign Planning Lead with Media Relations Group in Miami.
And David Aylesworth.
Hi, I'm David Aylesworth. I'm a Tampa citizen and Chief Chair.
Elizabeth Watkins.
Elizabeth Watkins, TPO staff.
Gina Du.
Gina Du, Tampa International Airport, and I'm presenting on advanced air mobility today.
And I'm not going to do this one well either. Hao Nguyen.
Al Wynn, CAT AVL, Manager of Scheduling, Hart.
Thank you. Herbie Jean.
Yes, Herbie James, City of Plant City, Project Manager in Engineering Department, filling in for Fred Baster today.
And we have Joseph Molinaro.
Hi, Joe Molinaro with Iteris. I'm the ATMS manager in their Tampa office.
And Nick On is online as well.
Yes, hi, Nick On. I'm with Smart Mobility of City of Tampa. I'm a traffic operation engineer. I actually work under Margaret.
I'm going to run through a couple of TPO staff members. We have Sarah Caper, Wade Reynolds, and Wyatt Birchell. And then we have Yu Zhang as well.
Thank you, Gail.
All right, thank you, Gail. Really appreciate that. Okay, do we have any public comments? I don't see any public people here. Are there anyone online? You have 3 minutes to speak. Okay, none being heard. We'll move to the minutes from May 8th.
Which we don't actually, so we can't.
Oh, I should announce that. Okay, so we don't have an official quorum today. So as we move through the agenda, we'll the only action item we have is the public participation plan update. that Harmony's gonna do. But we can offer comments, but we aren't gonna actually be able to take any action on that. So, okay, and then we'll move the minutes to the next meeting. Thank you. See, you really have to coach me. Okay, well, with that, Harmony, could you please come forward to your presentation?
Chair, I have it open for you, but Daniel's right. The chair and every chair. To get it, but anytime in some coffee. I'm something we woke up one day, like. I do. The report, but. It's not really far away from the forum, but. The season fine, maybe 7 members. That's not the people. But before. And they have to be. In person, I don't have. I can three in person right now. Thank you. That's good coffee. 6, 7.
Good afternoon. My name is Harmony McGee. Again, I'm the Community Relations Coordinator. So today I'll be presenting the Public Participation Plan update for this year. So just a little bit about what the Public Participation Plan is. It is our set of procedures and guidelines for how we do public engagement during the transportation planning process. And it's a commitment that we hold ourselves accountable to. So it is important that whatever is outlined in here, that we actually follow through with it. It's updated every 2 to 3 years and was last updated in 2022. I don't believe, did they receive the measures of effectiveness?
No, I don't think this group did, because you guys don't meet enough, like every month, like some of our other communities, but you'll see it.
Yes, so there is a document called the Measures of Effectiveness Report that coincides with this document. And it measures how effectively we are fulfilling our commitment to the procedures outlined in this document. So this update will address the recommendations that were made in the MOE, which happened in March of this year. So to discuss the PPP changes, we will discuss standardizing public notice times, printed media, the TPO priority list public meeting. We'll also address the recommendations from the MOE as well as the public participation toolbox. So starting off with standardizing public notice times. For the LRTP adoption, LRTP amendments, the TIP adoption, and also the TPO priority list, we will set a minimum of 10 days prior to the board meeting that will notify the public of the upcoming meeting. And this is just a standardization so that the dates aren't all over the place. I know for the public participation plan, it's not included in that 10 days just because we're legally bound to that 45 days. But for the others, we've set a standard of 10 days, and this just makes it easier for staff to remember, just to have a consistent set of days, and also when coordinating with the newspaper, because newspapers have varying deadlines, it's easier just for us to have a set 10 days on our end. For printed media, we are proposing that we would like to place ads, remove the requirements of place ads in the newspaper from the PPP and replace it with a more cost-effective printed method. And this comes after a study that we did during the Transportation Improvement Program's public engagement. We used unique QR codes to track the engagement that we were getting on each of the individual newspaper ads, and we found that it wasn't really a cost-effective method of engagement. So we would like to brainstorm some other ways of reaching the communities that don't have access to technology. So for example, maybe printed flyers might be an alternative. For the TPO priority list, the TPO has now implemented the practice of presenting the TIP and the TPO priority list as two separate items. Because of this change, we would like to no longer require that the TPO priority list must be approved at a public hearing. And we've also set a 15-day review period for the TPO priority list to give community members time to review the document. Now to address the MOE recommendations, just as a refresher of what the recommendations that were in the MOE were, it was to make our surveys ADA compliant, to remove sign postings requirements for the TIP, combating survey fatigue, expanding our presence on YouTube, evaluating the committee process, and standardizing meeting postponements. So for our first recommendation, the ADA compliant surveys, the PPP identifies SurveyMonkey and Survey123 as the two platforms that we'll be using moving forward. Previously, we used MetroQuest, but we were having some challenges with making it ADA compliant, especially for the visually impaired. A recent testimony of why this is so important is our work on Bush Boulevard, in which we did outreach with the visually impaired. And because of that, the pedestrian infrastructure on that road has vocalization features. And without their input, we wouldn't have been able to implement that in the design. So that's why we have such a strong emphasis on this. Next, for the fifth road signs, we would like to remove having road signs in the PPP requirement. We will still have it outlined in our public participation toolbox, which I will discuss later. But this allows staff to make it as a discretionary call than having it as a requirement. And similar to the study we did for printed media, we also did a study with the signs using unique QR codes and also found that they weren't really a good return on investment. And they also pose a hazard to staff and those like the community members trying to engage with the signs, especially when you're driving and trying to scan a QR code at the same time. It's not the best use of your time while driving, although maybe pedestrians may have been able to access it more safely. For meeting postponements, we have set a 4 calendar day window at the discretion of the TPO director in collaboration with the committee liaison to decide whether a meeting will be canceled or postponed. And this is just also in preparation for things like hurricane season, so that committee members have ample time to prepare and know what their expectations are for meetings. For the other MOE recommendations, they are addressed by the public engagement toolbox, which can be found in Appendix C of the PPP. The public engagement toolbox essentially outlines different tools and strategies that TPO staff can use. So for an example of this might be that instead of using surveys, a TPO staff person might use focus groups, and this helps to address survey fatigue. Another example might be to use Instagram Reels or YouTube Shorts online to help expand our online presence. And what YouTube Shorts are and Instagram Reels are, their short form videos designed to be engaging and to deliver information more of a quick fashion. We find that those are more engaging with the current environment online. And this just gives staff the flexibility to cater our public engagement methods, the unique needs and concerns of each study as well. So for committee feedback, I'm going to give a summary of the information we've received so far. So far, we've been to the Technical Advisory Committee and also the Citizens Advisory Committee. So some of the committee members were not in support of removing the requirement to post signs. They did, however, suggest maybe using larger signs and using short links for those not wanting to use QR codes. For both the printed media and signs, the argument was made that further analysis outside of return on investment should be used to discern the value of particular engagement methods. However, there were also some that believe that the cost effectiveness should be prioritized across the board for all engagement methods. When asked about alternative methods to replace the newspaper ads, the mailing approach was the most popular pick. This might include utility bill inserts, driver's license renewal inserts, and postcards. Another suggestion that was mentioned was using opt-in text messaging to send alerts. Questions were also raised about the changes in respect to Title VI, and TPO staff confirmed that these changes would not cause us to violate any of those requirements. Now for questions and feedback, we would like to get you all's feedback, particularly on public noticing. If you find that any particular method, whether on this slide or your own idea, what are some alternative ways that we could reach those, also particularly those that don't have access to technology?
Thank you, Harmony. That's very good. Very important to get the input from citizens and local businesses on any kind of project. Does anyone have any comments, suggestions?
So I don't really have any suggestions. I do think that the signs, can pose a challenge for people who are trying to, capture the QR code and the information. But I also do think that it has good visibility at times, like I noticed them in our area. So that would be my only comment. I guess my question related to that is you said that it wouldn't be a requirement, that they would still be able to do it based on discretion. Do you know, like, have you guys outlined any criteria where you would elect to post signs over not at all? Or I was just wondering, like, what's that? First, where does that decision fall? Like, and
Yes, I don't believe we have any particular set of standards on when the discretionary call would be made. I would like to say more likely if it's more of a controversial project or something that we know a lot are impacted by a lot of community members, then more than likely put it on side. Caution and brevity use the signs.
thank you. And then the only other thing I would say is, I think the inserts is a pretty good idea because it's going to reach most people, and at least that's the way that I don't know that everybody's going to read it, but yeah, that's comment. But thank you, good presentation. Thank you.
Okay. Anyone else?
It's always funny to me that I would have something to say when this is like hard to see, but just hearing Melissa Dickens talk about geofencing and how they've used that for Riverview project, like I just feel like that, I know we were talking about people that don't have technology, but it's kind of a cool thing. Like if you are in that area and you're impacted by this particular project or study or whatever, I feel like we should use that more. I know that's probably in our toolbox, isn't it? Which is, it's in the toolbox, probably.
Yes, we're gonna add that to the toolbox. We got some feedback about that as well.
In today's age, it does take a lot of different ways to reach people. You never know how people are using any of their technology or paper. So.
I do have a comment, a question. Are you measuring how many people see the ads in the Instagram or YouTube? How do you get those numbers?
Yes, we use Meta to track the amount of engagement we get on our social media campaigns. So
Okay.
Don't they have data that it'll show like how many impressions you have, like how many people at least saw it or it came on their page? And then you can also see who clicked through it, at least clicked it. And then how long did they dwell there?
Yeah.
Yeah, it has a lot of data.
Do you get location as well, or approximate location?
I really only tell us the location if we do a paid advertisement. I don't believe it'll tell us the location. It's just like a standard post. But if it's a paid advertisement, usually it's not exactly geofencing because we don't fence off a particular location. But for paid advertisements, you can choose zip codes to which it'll target that specific zip code to push out that social media post. So in that instance, we would know the location.
Interesting. Thank you.
Very good. Okay, anyone online? And being heard? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Well done.
Thank you.
There's a comment
Oh,
on the chat.
I should have my computer here. Can you read it? This is it here.
Read it if you like.
Yes, please.
To engage, it says to engage communities with limited access to technology. You could also look into out-of-home printed placement within doctor's offices, community centers, pharmacies, local convenience stores, things like that, offered by outdoor marketing companies. It also helps to perform consumer research to find out how people are accessing content.
Yeah, sorry, I had it right here, but thank you.
Thank you for that recommendation. I will make sure to incorporate that.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, very good. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, moving on to the next item on the agenda under status reports. We have I-4 frame project, the smart corridors implementation. Megan?
And Megan, I believe you wanted in-person support for that.
Yes, that would be awesome if you can help me with the slides.
Carrie is at your service.
Thank you. I appreciate that. So are you sharing your screen or?
We're pulling it up.
Oh, you're pulling it up. Okay. Thank
Just
you.
a moment. Thank you. Yeah, that one there. Sorry, almost there, folks. Thank you.
Yeah, I don't think I have that one open. Sorry.
Yes, no. Sorry.
Ta-da!
Right, nice. One there. Yeah. Right there.
Okay, here we go. All yours, Megan. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I appreciate your patience and for bringing up the presentation. I'm very happy that you're interested in the I-4 Frame, the Florida Regional Advanced Mobility Element project. And this project is a regional project. And I know I've given presentations before regarding this project. However, what we wanted to share with you, Ed Alberton, who is the ITS manager, and myself, is to give you an update as far as the construction progress. Next slide, please. Next one. So today we wanted to give you an update as far as how the construction project is going and also the integration of the CV aspect of this project. Just a quick background about I-4 Frame. It's about $30+ million project. It's a regional project from Tampa to Orlando, and it includes District 7, 1, and 5 and Turnpike, Florida Turnpike. It has two projects that were under, one was under construction, and the construction was completed about 6 months ago. However, the configuration is still ongoing. The first project, our partners, the local partners are Hillsborough County, Plant City, and City of Tampa. The second project is the project that still the construction is ongoing, which is District 1, District 5, and Florida Turnpike. And the anticipated construction completion is September of 2025. The first project, the first portion of this project that was implemented was in Plant City. And in Plant City, what you can see is the fact that this portion of the project includes 3 major interchanges, Tonono-Sasa Road, Alexander Street, and Park Boulevard. What's the intent of I-4 Frame is basically providing an alternate route when there are incidents on I-4, giving the drivers other alternate routes to get to their destination or go around the incident that's on I-4 and minimize the travel time that they're losing because of the incident by giving them the alternate routes. So the diversion routes in Plant City is the primary diversion route is US 92 Baker Street, and that's what you see on blue on the map. And there are also connections, connections from I-4 to the US 92. The secondary diversion route is MLK Boulevard. So what's being implemented with this project in Plant City? So this area includes 24 new roadside units, 12 new CCTVs where we didn't previously have cameras, 3 new Bluetooth devices, and the installation of video detection at 8 major intersections. Basically, they're decision points that we can gather ATS-PM information for real-time decision making. And we also have 36 blankout signs that are being that has been installed in Plant City already for assisting with the diversion routes and giving the drivers the best information regarding how the diversion route is recommended and giving the drivers an easy way of finding their way around the incident and back to I-4. And it all goes back to diversion route scenarios that I mentioned. The diversion route were updated from original traffic responsive system that was deployed in 2015 and 2019. Many of you know that we do the retiming for corridors every 4 years or 5 years. And we had done the diversion routes in Plant City previously, but what we wanted to make sure is that those diversion routes and the timings are updated based on the I-4 Frame project. And for the diversion routes, there are three flush patterns that were developed on US 92. Next slide, please. So there are three diversion routes, the three flush patterns that were developed on US 92, eastbound, westbound, and both directions with equal volumes on US 92. The diversion routes run from Tononosasa to Park Road, and the methodology includes utilizing the existing time of day plans and increasing the green time by 20% on US 92. In addition, we optimize offsets in the primary direction of diverting traffic on US 92, assuming speeds 10 miles under the speed limit. And that is the way the flush patterns were programmed. Next slide, please. Next one. So many of you have seen a lot of devices, technology, the CV technologies that's associated with I4 frame or any CV projects are the roadside units that have been implemented for Plant City. They're dual band DSRC and CV2X to make sure that they're foolproof for the future CV communication. And as you can see on the left side, these units are very small. You see them on mast arm or signal poles, and they're very non-invasive as far as the way they look. And the intent of the RSU units is to, it's a roadside unit that provides messages that was provided to the RSU from the OBUs, and it's being processed for team messages that includes lane closures, work zone locations, delay and end of queue incidents, signal phase and timing, speed, and also if there are any, for instance, pedestrian bicycles within the where the vehicle is located. So the next one is the OBUs, the onboard units. The onboard units, later on, Ed will provide you the progress in implementing the OBUs on department, local agency, and emergency vehicles. A lot of these, especially for instance, we have coordinated with City of Tampa. We have coordinated with Hillsborough County and Plant City. And Ed is the one who had put the invitation to bid for the vendor that was selected, and he will share that information with you. Meanwhile, the OB units, they're the physical units, but we're also working on an app that functions as an OBU. That is in progress. Florida Turnpike was the first department unit that had put a pilot project together. So we're also working on that. Then the signal controllers, deployed advanced signal controllers compatible with SPAT and MAP and ATSPM. And we also put out the blankout signs that are very crucial as far as providing information in the field to the traveling public. Next slide, please. Here, I'd like to share with you a few of the lessons that we have learned regarding the implementation of the RSUs. And it's interesting, I was on the progress meeting for the TIA frame project that's under construction. And it's interesting that we're all trying to learn from each other with respect to the RSU implementations, OBU implementation, and a lot of things that are related to a CV project. So, they were discussing how their RSUs are being configured. And what I'd like to share with you is a few of the lessons learned that we did go through. So as far as the SCMS enrollment, for instance, the RSUs are pre-enrolled by the vendor in the SCMS platform, but often had to be re-enrolled due to delays between the installation of the RSU unit and the integration in the field. So, and also in the original integration that was done by the RSU vendor. Inconsistencies in how long RSUs remain idle between losing SCMS registration. Re-enrollment required cancellation of the previous certifications. The SCMS platforms includes the certificates for these RSUs, and one of the items that we realize is that after if at times it requires re-enrollment and it requires cancellation of the previous certificate. The MAP and SPAT coordinations work very closely with local agencies to gather accurate SPAT map data of each location to be provided to the vendor. Econolite controllers required firmware update to be compatible with RSU firmware. So what was required? Econolite had to develop a firmware update for the project. What happened was that until Econolite developed the firmware update, the controller and the RSUs weren't communicating. RSU placements is important. At some interchanges with two RSU controllers, with two RSUs controlled by one controller, only one RSU could transmit the SPAT message. So the solution was to designate one RSU unit to cover the overall interchange for the SPAT messages. Next slide, please. So, as many of you know, the software that manages our RTMC is SunGuide. So we had to install connected vehicle drivers in SunGuide that does not come automatically with SunGuide version 9, which is our latest version of SunGuide. This allowed TIM messages to communicate from SunGuide to the RSUs, and we had to adjust the permission in the SunGuide so that the operators could see the RSUs on their workstation and the messages that were provided, the TIM messages as well. Finally, the Vantage Argus, which is the vendor software for the RSUs, can only view the TIM messages and cannot send TIM messages. That means that utilizing SunGuide as the distributor of the TIM messages. Next slide, please. A lot of times, as many of you know, especially the ones who have been involved with design projects, we have to be very cognizant of, as far as the department, very cognizant of working with the maintaining agencies personnel who not only provide, participate in design review, but it's also very important to make sure that the network specialists at the local agencies and also the maintenance personnel participate in the design meetings. A lot of times, the plans are sent to the design personnel, and that communication is not fully developed. So we're very cognizant of that. To put more effort in that. Then perform a full network review with the local agency network personnel during the design to ensure local agencies understand and they understand the proposed network This is to prevent the Ethernet switchboards from being used by local agencies that were reserved for the I-4 frame project. In this particular case, we worked very closely with the local agency, and the department had to invest in adding additional switches in the cabinets. And this also required the department mitigating this by purchasing additional switches. And then finally, the reprogramming and reconfiguration of the RSUs, it was also an issue. We had talked about some of the configuration issues, but we did have a situation also where the chipset for the RSUs were problematic and preventing GPS from being properly transmitted. So we had the return merchandise authorization of 7% of the RSUs, and then the firmware updates were not working properly. So we had the RMA about 5% of the RSUs. And this is just a quick summary of what we have done in Plant City. The Plant City I-4 frame is fully integrated. We had a field meeting with Plant City Federal Highway, because Federal Highway is the agency that provided the $30 million grant for this project. And it was very successful. Our central office traffic ops personnel also came down, and it was a very successful pilot. The next one, I'm happy to say it's going to be City of Tampa. We will do the same thing after it's all integrated. We will have a field meeting, and we'll get together, Margaret, with your team and again with the department's team to and also the EOR, which is metric, to show you how the messages, the team messages are seen in the vehicle and also in as well as in the Sun Guide. With that, I'm going to turn it to Ed Alberton. He had done an amazing job putting together an invitation to bid for the OBUs, and he can tell us about all the progress regarding the 400 plus OBUs that he had coordinated with the purchase.
Good afternoon. We haven't really mentioned it again today in part of these presentations, but this project was actually a system manager, so you may be confused when we talk about the contractor being finished with his construction in D7, and yet there's still most of the project is still yet to be fully delivered. So some of that falls on the system manager, which was the project delivery method that we use. Some of those missions fall on us, as Megan said. Acquiring the RSUs and the OBUs and facilitating the installation fell on us, and a large part of that on myself. So I'm happy to say that we just finished our first round of D7 installations of the onboard units, and to harken back to her presentation, it's that's the vehicle-based device that's enables the vehicle to infrastructure and vehicle-to-vehicle communication in a CV network. So we were able to install over 3 different days, July 22nd, 23rd, and 31st. We got 19 semi-permanent onboard units installed in D7, a combination of D7 and Tampa operations vehicles. The picture that was in Megan's slideshow was a fully portable unit. These were semi-permanent that we installed, and if you're able to access the PDF that I attached in the chat, it'll show you the components of what we installed. It's a semi-permanent. Nothing is permanently attached to the vehicle. Nothing is screwed under the seat or the trunk. Nothing is screwed to the roof like a fully permanent installation would be, like some of our early connected vehicle projects did, and that turned out to be problematic as far as lessons learned are concerned. So ours, if you leaf through that, ours involves essentially an LTE antenna, a shark fin antenna that goes on the top or the trunk of the vehicle, And then the onboard unit will either reside in the trunk or under the driver's seat with a small 7-inch display that goes up somewhere on the dash, depending on the make and model of the vehicle. Newer vehicles have a pretty fancy glass display in the center most of the time themselves, so we've had to put them over by the other column where they're not creating much of a sight obstruction, but you can still see the message when it populates. So we're going to be finished shortly, I mean, or at least for a brief period here in District 7. We've got some SIM card issues we have to work out with the vendor. District 5, their first wave is going to be, I think, 55 units. None of them are going to require a SIM card. They've done a fair amount of coordination and collaboration with fire rescue over there in District 5. And so these are all going in fire rescue vehicles that already have an onboard cell modem that they're just going to utilize for the necessary communication of the onboard unit. Right now, it's looking like it will be September-ish before we get our next wave of onboard units for installation here within the district. That does involve some participants of this meeting. I won't be able to recall the exact number that you guys have thankfully offered to let us install in some of your vehicles, but that will undoubtedly be a portion of those next phases to come. That's it.
Okay. Well, thank you both, Megan and Ed. Appreciate that. Questions? Anyone from the room? No? How about online? Well, we really appreciate the updates. The projects have been underway for quite some time, and it's good to see how we're progressing and we're coming to closure, and then the actual practical use. It's exciting to see the technology there to help make our limited capacity run as efficient as possible. So thank you. Okay, we will move on to the next one. The next presentation we have is Advanced Air Mobility Test Flight. Gina Du from Aviation Authority.
Yes, and I think I have permission to share, yes. Let me get this up. TPO rotations. Sorry, I don't know why it's. There we go.
Yeah.
Great. We just get on this one presentation. Let me do this. Okay, sorry. Trying to get this. The team screen is like right where I need to. There we go. I'm like, why isn't this letting me go to slideshow? Good afternoon. I'm Gina Du at the Tampa International Airport. And we are very proud of our work on integrating advanced air mobility into our airspace and into our campus, and hopefully all of the work that we've been doing in conjunction with the community will make us one of the first cities to have advanced air mobility. So we are like the birthplace of commercial aviation, and so innovation in aviation is something that is in our DNA here in this region. The first commercial flight ever was actually from downtown St. Petersburg to downtown Tampa on January 1st, 1914, which was flown by Tony Janis. We're also at the Tampa International Airport, a legacy of innovation. We were the first world's ever people mover system. And so Westinghouse actually developed the train system for us. So it wasn't in Shanghai, it wasn't in New York, it was actually here in Tampa where this technology launched for the first time. A little bit about us is that we serve over 25 million annual passengers right now. And on this slide, which is also important, is the 3 general aviation facilities: Peter O. on Davis Island, Plant City, and Tampa Executive, which is over by the fairgrounds. And we see this as a system of airports that can connect through advanced air mobility. Our number one goal through going all of this is the safe and efficient integration of advanced air mobility into our airspace. And of course, our number one goal on this is protecting the utility of our airports. Every 5 to 10 years, we are required by the FAA to look at our master plan and see how we're going to develop for the next 20 years. Part of these considerations we included in with advanced air mobility. And so we included site selection, airspace and operations, infrastructure and utilities, and community and stakeholder engagement. To help with this, we set up an internal committee, and you can see the departments listed above. I'm the Director of Government Relations, and I co-chair this with our Vice President of General Aviation. And we use this committee to inform and really sift through the data to inform the master plan. To do this, we hosted an industry day where we brought in various companies. You can see some of the names on the screen that to come in, and they weren't sales pitches. They were asked to develop decks that answered very specific questions with aircraft certification, what type of their business models, what type of operations will they be doing, what are their ideal locations, what are their infrastructure and electrical needs. Some of these companies are vertical takeoff only. Some of them can do vertical and horizontal. So what does that look like? What are their battery ranges? What are their charging needs? All of those things. And again, those infrastructure requirements, one of the key takeaways from all of this was that we prefer agnostic facilities. There was one vertiport company that was saying that they were only going to do exclusive agreements, and that would not have worked on our campus. We're only on 3,500 acres, and we, again, that highest and best use of land. So one of the other challenges that we learned is that while everybody wants to be on top of the parking garage for passengers to come down through from the vehicle straight out to the gate, that there are some challenges with the parallel runways. And again, then that integration with the airport so that it has access not only to the terminal, but then also to our roadway system, whether people want to go north, south, east, or west. We looked at primary use cases, including passenger transport, which you can see the airport transport. So people wanted to come directly here from other locations throughout the region to catch a flight, and then also cargo as well, is going to be a big focus. So we have a robust cargo industry here with UPS, FedEx, and Amazon. And so Beta, you can see the Beta plane there. They actually have an agreement with UPS. So when we looked at potential sites for the vertiports, you can see that we, again, this 8, 7, 6, and 5, like in this down the center, are in between the two parallels. So that makes it a little bit difficult for us to then get these into the airspace, where 1 and 2 are located over by our existing general aviation facilities and connect into the roadway system. So if you think of it that if people wanted to come to the vertiport and then they're going somewhere in West Shore, there's easy road access. And if they're coming into the airport to then be transferred over to gates for a commercial flight, it's also easy access through our roadway system. One of the big questions that we keep getting asked is like, well, what's security going to look like, and how will people be physically transported, and when will they go through screening, and all these things. And that is one of the big unknowns still left in the industry. And truthfully, that's going to be up to the TSA. The federal government dictates when and how passengers go through screening. The airport will not determine that. And so that's one of the big things that we've been pushing on the vertiport companies and the AAM manufacturers is to start having to they've started conversations, but to really have more robust conversations to figure out what that piece will look like. This is where they would be at Tampa Exec. So again, they're adjacent to some future non-aviation sites. But again, if they wanted to use the horizontal, if they wanted to use the taxiways, they are taxiway adjacent. We did host the Florida's first ever public test flight in November of 2023, and it was also the first test flight for a major airport in the country. So we invited 300 of our closest friends, including the Tampa Bay EDC and Hillsborough Community College. We also had representatives from the Hillsborough County School System and people from all over the region to come and see this, because we also see this as a manufacturing and workforce development opportunity for the region, not just a transportation solution. So leading the charge on advanced air mobility, we've been working with the Florida Department of Transportation. We are very grateful for their efforts on this. Florida is leading the way in the country, as always, on these transportation initiatives. We hosted the first tabletop exercise here in Tampa to look at bringing the stakeholders from across the board. TICO was at the table, local planning organizations, all of those, to actually go through a real life scenario of what would be the process of citing a vertiport. So again, local government approval, FAA and FDOT. And here's a video on our flight.
Is there?
So,
There's a share. So. That's okay. It is.
it's a big role.
So with that, I will take any questions.
Well, it's always good to see us moving forward, we have our day-to-day operation, emergency operation, and then it's always nice to have that pause of going, okay, what's the future look like? So
Yeah.
thank you. That was really helpful. I didn't know the history of our airport, so that's pretty cool too, so. Okay, any questions? Do you have any, Brian or Michelle? Yep. Okay, anyone online, questions? No? Okay, well, thank you very much. Very good information and glad to see that we're participating at the advancement of advanced air mobility. So let's see. So Dr. Zhang, speaking on advanced air mobility simulation tool.
Yes, hi everyone.
Hello.
I'm gonna share my screen. Let's see. Can you let me do it again because I'm gonna share with the voice included, with the sound included. Okay. All right. You can see my screen, right?
Yes,
Yes.
yes, we can.
All right. Okay. Yeah, so nice to see everyone and thank you for inviting me to this meeting. And I'm working at USF and serve as the director for the Advanced Air Mobility Research Program at Qatar. So we have been working on, planning related research on AAM. We have also looked into working with FAA on understanding the integration airspace for the new entrants, which means those eVTOLs that could potentially getting in and out of the commercial airports. And today I want to share with everyone is an agent-based simulation tool that we developed that can be used for planning and operational management of AAM. It can be potentially used by transition planners at the regional or statewide level, or used by the policymakers, used by the operators as well. So let me, I will just give a brief introduction of this and talk about the research goal and introduce our model construction, and then talk about the case study that we actually simulated, which is the Tampa Bay region, and then show some results from the simulation. So Gina has talked about advanced air mobility, and I think committee members probably have already heard about this and have some knowledge about advanced air mobility already. So it's basically enabled by advanced aircraft technologies that are powered by renewable energies, electricity, and also using distributed propulsion systems that improve the safety of the aircraft. So AAM covers urban air mobility, regional transportation in underserved rural areas, and also covers the service for both cargo and passengers. So why we wanted to develop this operational simulation model, because it could help us to evaluate the overall performance of the AAM systems before the real world implementations, so that we can mimic what could happen in the future and identify possible bottlenecks, or identify some aspects that we need to consider in the planning. So in our study, we used Analogic platform. It's a very wide used platform by transition engineers, by many other areas. And it combines discrete event, agent-based, and also system dynamics approaches. And it has the flexibility of this combination actually allow for more accurate modeling of complex systems. And it also has a good visualization effect. So we want to create a simulation tool for AAM operations, use this platform. And we want to make sure that this model is designed to be scalable and allowing for the different configurations of the AAM system, and also can import the dynamically changing eVTOL aircraft features. We also want to design these APIs so that we can import the different configurations, import potentially the operational improvement strategies. And we also make sure that the model is flexible to switch between the internal and external algorithms for assigning the passengers and scheduling the eVTOL, and also allow the flexible control of the AAM operations. So eventually, we want this simulation platform be useful for the stakeholders to test and evaluate, like network design, fleet planning, scheduling, rebalancing, and other planning and operational management tasks. All right, so this is the agent-based model, and the simulation, the agents in our simulation are mainly vertiport, passengers, and eVTOLs. So there are different logics about each of the agent. Like the passenger, we generate the passenger at the vertiport according to like a Poisson process, and assign the passengers to eVTOLs following like a first come first serve, or later we can have more kind of sophisticated or complicated passenger assign strategies. And then they just go through the whole system and exit after, or they exit after they get to the destination, or leave at the origin if they waited for too long. And then we also have the eVTOL logic, make sure that the eVTOLs get ready, enough charging, and also they will take off when the takeoff pad is available. So we follow this, and I have details of this logic follow. This is for passengers. They originate from the vertiport, go through the small terminal building, and then wait until they be assigned to eVTOL. And if they come back to the arrive at this particular vertiport, then they will follow the flow at the bottom and until they leave the system. And for eVTOL, this is a logic flow of the eVTOL. So in the simulation, can trace the state of charge of the eVTOL and check if it's available for serving the passengers, and if there's enough seats to serving more passengers, and what will be the features for them to take off, climbing and cruising in the air, and landing at the destination side vertiport. So we also can design the different types of terminal building, like a vertiport. The vertiport in the future could be very small, like similar as a helipad that we have right now, or could be more sophisticated, like the in Korea, they're designed more like the huge vertiport with probably like 6 or even 10 takeoff landing pad. So it depends on the need and also the availability of the suitable sites. So the experiment that we have done is we simulate the AM in Tampa Bay region. So we look into like 30 vertiports, and the location of these 30 vertiports actually came from our previous study. So our previous study tried to find the best locations of the vertiports and also estimate, how much traffic or how much demand that they can attract from the ground transportation. So here's the detailed passenger assignment algorithm. I will not go step by step. I just want to show you this video. Let's see. So first to talk about the architecture of the simulation platform. We have different agents, and in the agents we have different steps. And then these are the flow logics that I just presented. And here's the different designs of the vertiports, terminal building. So now we simulate this, and the red color showing the restricted airspace, kind of the airspace used a lot by the commercial flights, landing and the takeoff from the commercial airports. So the eVTOLs can avoid those areas. And then we trace the passengers statistics, eVTOL statistics, vertiport statistics. And also it can zoom in to specific vertiports and see how the passengers going through the small terminal building there. You can see it from different angles. And here's the statistics, system-wide statistics, like showing how many passengers being served, how many actually they leave the system because the wait is just for too long. And then talk about the utilization of the takeoff landing pads at the airport, utilization of the parking pads, and then look into if there's any bottlenecks in the system when you do not have a pad for the eVTOLs to land, or you do not have any eVTOLs to serve the incoming passengers. So here's the kind of dashboard we designed. So we can show the passenger statistics at each vertiport. We can see the service rate. Service rate means if it's equal to 100 means all the passengers coming to this vertiport be served. But if it's lower means some passengers, we assume that some passengers would leave after maybe like 30 minutes or even longer, because we are simulating kind of the future scenarios where you provide like on-demand services for the passengers. So the parameters for how long they are willing to wait is something we can change. And then once that change, then it will affect the service rate here. And we also can trace the out-of-vehicle waiting time of the passengers and the in-vehicle waiting time of the passengers. And for eVTOL, we can look at like the average waiting time for them to land. Sometimes they have to maybe kind of delay it a little bit in the air, and waiting time for them to move to the parking pad, and also what will be the waiting time before they take off. And for the vertiport, we can trace the occupancy rate of the landing pads, occupancy rate of the parking pads, and occupancy rate of the takeoff pads. And I mentioned system-wide, we also trace different performance metrics, and these can all be customized upon the request of the users. So this platform can potentially be used for the vertiport capacity design because in the simulation, we for each vertiport we define how many takeoff pad, how many landing pad, how many parking pads, and the parking pads are those all like a charging pads or not. So you can vary this information and run the simulation, and then we can do also the fleet planning. If one operator want to use this tool to decide how many eVTOLs they would need for serving this region, then they can do that. And we can also use it for testing and evaluate operational strategies. Like, do we need to have some rebalancing strategies? Do we need to using like a reinforcement learning to integrate the passenger assignment and the eVTOL scheduling? So in conclusion, we designed this tool and it's powerful, it's scalable, it has lots of portals that we can insert the external algorithms. And it can be used by different stakeholders, including planners, operators, and also regulators. I don't know if I have used too much time, so we'll continue on extending this work to in different directions. And the one thing I want to mention is about the total mobility simulation that we're working on. So the AM sim I just presented kind of cover this shaded area, which we simulate the arriving of the passengers to the vertiport and the whole process here. But we know that in the future, no matter if it's scheduled or on demand, actually it's a multi-modal transportation. So passengers need to go from their origin using ground translation mode to get the vertiports, and once they get the destination side of vertiport, they also need to use the ground translation to get their final destination. So what we wanted to do is we want to integrate the ground agent-based simulation, such like MATSIM, together with our AM sim, and then we can come up with what we call the total mobility simulation platform. So that's all. And any questions? Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Zhang. That was very interesting. And you did end up answering a question because I was like, oh, how many vehicles was that? It looked like a lot. And then that last slide reminded me of when we introduced mobility as a service as a pilot project years ago. And it was similarly that origin, destination, first mile, last mile, and then, how to handle the trip in between. So saw a lot of consistencies there for transportation planning. Anyone have any questions?
So ready, I ask one.
Yes,
Okay,
absolutely.
sure. I'm curious, I know those 30 vertiports are hypothetical, but was there one that clearly had like the highest volume or throughput? Like, was it like near the airport or what? I'm just curious if one really stood out as like critical to this hypothetical system.
Oh yeah, so you're talking about which sites have higher volumes?
Yeah, it was like the most notable highest site volumes. Mhm.
Yeah, I try to recall, I think Tampa downtown area, West Chase and Brandon. And it's pretty, it's very follow our intuitive, our observation now. So those are the sites with high volume. And actually, one vertiports, we may not be able to find just one vertiport can serve all the demand. So like for the Tampa downtown area, we may have multiple, vertiport, given the restricted size of the land, available land, we may have multiple to serve the demand.
Thank you.
Yeah, sure. Thank you for the question.
I do have a common question. So I know it's all a simulation. So what were all the components, at least the biggest components of that to prepare that simulation that you used in terms of data, or what did you use for the data?
Yeah, so as I mentioned in our previous study, actually, we used the Tampa Bay region activity-based demand modeling. So my colleague actually has done a 24-hour simulation of our regional activity-based demand modeling, and it gets the disaggregate data for 24 hours. And so we took that data as input for our previous research and tried to determine, we did an integrated vertiport siting and a demand estimation modeling. And from there, we say if you wanted to put 10 vertiports in this region, where they should be and how much demand you can attract from the ground. If you want to put 20, if you want to put 30, we can do different scenario analysis. So we got the results from that study. And then we use the information from outcome from that study as the input for this simulation model.
So follow-up question is, so with the new set of data, you could repeat this then and see what changes, if anything, based on another data set in the future.
Yeah, it could be used by any region, any state, any location, or different countries. We can import the Google Map into our simulation. And, if you have whoever wanted to use the simulation, if they have the sites of the vertiport, they can upload, have a layer, a layer added on. And then, we also did like airspace analysis. I have shown this like red colored areas. Those are areas with lots of landing and takeoff of commercial flights. So in our algorithm, we actually asked eVTOL to go around those airspace to mitigate the interference to the commercial flights. And for other users, they can come up with some Airlink network as well. So this is a simulation tool, can be used by anyone, and we're actually preparing like a user manual and talk about, what data would be needed, how to import the data into the simulation platform, right? So it could be used by many different stakeholders.
Very good, thank you.
Sounds very
Thank you.
flexible to meet the needs. Anyone else? Well, thank you very much for your time. I appreciate you presenting today. That's very good.
Sure, my pleasure. Thank you.
Move on to our next agenda item. Is there any old business or new business that anyone wants to bring up? Ideas for additional presentations?
Well, I'm glad you brought that up, Margaret. I wanted to see if Brian was prepared, or someone from your office, on the Tismo master plan. The next meeting's November 6th, so I didn't.
Yeah, we can probably, that's fine, sure.
Things we can list it, but talk about it, because I'm not sure.
I think Rafael is on the meeting, so I'm gonna put Rafael on the spot here. But we can work on the master plan presentation.
Yeah, the next meeting is November 6th at 1:30, standard time, so, or a regular time. Okay, did you want to say anything about those?
So I didn't have enough information, like I had listed a few things, we brainstorm ideas for each meeting. And we had signal prioritization study listed, but I don't know what agency, I don't have the details on that one.
Yeah, that's the one I think Wayne is doing.
That's.
Yeah, and we're all participating in it though,
Yes, of
because we're
course.
providing data in order to work on it.
Good, so that's definitely gonna be on the agenda. For that.
We'll check to see if it's, timing is right.
Yes.
It may not be right yet. November may be too soon.
Okay. So yeah, 2025 year in review.
Okay.
Cutter bridging intercity travel. So I don't know who's that presenter on that one, but that sounds interesting. If you think of anything else, both online,
Yeah, well, I have one. It actually fits right into the advanced air mobility, is that on Monday, I had a vendor approach us and they gave us like a half an hour presentation about drone delivery, because I guess it was in the news or somewhere, Walmart suggested that they may go to drone delivery in Tampa, and I was like, oh, really? But definitely, I guess if the vendors, Amazon and Walmart are talking about it, we probably need to start seriously thinking about it. I have taken their information and sent it to a different department, but under my responsibility, I'm in charge of right-of-way permitting, so I think eventually it seems like it might fit for us to manage who's there. But it occurred to me that even the simulation might be an additional tool to see what's happening. So I just want to put that out there. I don't know if anyone else is thinking about that in their jurisdictions. I know, I just got off a vacation, so I didn't investigate any further, but that is something that we probably are gonna need to talk about soon.
I wouldn't even know how to permit that. I mean, how do you?
I don't know, but they're operating in our right of way, you know, if you think about, you know, we do everything underground, we do everything overhead, and then, you know, then there's airspace and concern because they did bring up, like Peter O'Knight and the other executive airports, if they're VIR, they're doing visual takeoff and landing, then, you know, how do the drones interact or not interact, make sure, you know, I don't know the elevations or the altitudes of.
Maybe even request them to help us with CCTV, for example, if they're gonna start operating the right of way.
Oh, there's so many questions. Yeah, haven't even started, just saying that they presented to us and it was like, oh, wow, that's a lot to think about. So I just thought I'd put it in front of this committee. Because whenever we have something like that, it's not just an isolated, situation. Want to make sure that we're looking at things comprehensively and together. Anytime we can leverage any kind of knowledge and sharing knowledge, that's the purpose of this committee. So. Yeah, we'll keep it in that, find somebody. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's
Make sure,
right.
I cannot meet next meeting, but definitely have it on there. Yeah. Yes. Okay, anyone else? Anyone online have some ideas? Not this week. Okay. Well, with that, I think I can bring the meeting to adjournment. And, thank you, everyone. Have a wonderful afternoon.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming in person, you guys. I'll try to stroll up more in person attendance.